The GTX Auto Pro, this is the question. What is the car for you? What do you need? GTX, as we know, is all-wheel drive 250 kilowatt and the Pro is just rear-wheel drive 210 kilowatt. They have different batteries, the same size but different chemistry, so there's different charging and of course they have a different range. But what is more important to you? This video is supported by Tronity, a must-have for every Volkswagen, Tesla and Ford owner, but also for other brands. With the app or the browser, you can have an overview of your monthly costs, all of your trips, your average consumption, your charging session, your AC to DC ratio, which is awesome. And of course, there's a 100% tax-compliant driver's logbook, because every drive or every charging session, you can say it's private or it was for business. My viewers get 25% off if they use the link in the description below. The interior, software and features is exactly the same. The only difference is that you have a bit of a different design, and in the GTX you have the GTX logo everywhere and you have red stitching and special colors like this red is only available for the GTX. And then in the software the only difference is the drive mode traction for all-wheel drive, and that's it. But other than that, software features that you can preheat the battery and everything is exactly the same. But now to the differences that we have. Battery, number one is the charging curve. AC it's the same, 11 kilowatt, but DC is totally different. The Pro has only a peak of around 141, 142 kilowatt, where the GTX has 181 kilowatt. But the Pro stays at above 100% longer, at 74% if I'm not mistaken. I put the charging curves in here and the comparison between those, where the GTX stays high and then goes lower, under 100 kilowatt earlier than that. They're both good charging curves. They improved the GTX charging curve, and I think before the Pro was a bit better if you charge to 80% but not to a low state of charge. But now I think they're very similar. So the GTX charging curve is better if you not always charge to 80%. If you do charge to 80% a lot on a long distance drive, then they're the same. So the GTX is better. But there is the range, where the Pro has 550 kilometers double LTP range, GTX has 515. That's 7% less, and in my range test I have seen that. I did two tests, 110 and 130 tests, and in the 110 I drove the exact same route but arrived with 3% more in the battery, and that sounds not a lot, but I had the heat on at 21 degrees and it was way colder. It was 4 to 10 degrees if I'm not mistaken, where it was in the GTX test it was 15 to 20 degrees warm out and no heat and no AC. So I think that the difference of 7% is still shown in this. In the 130 test, they have used almost the same battery and everything, but again, it was colder, I had the heat on, and on the day when I tested the Pro, I had a lot of traffic. I didn't drive on the Sunday, I had to accelerate and slow down a lot, and I had to drive a bit faster, 140 for a while to get the average speed up, and this is always bad for consumption, and that's why I think that the Pro is really significantly less consumption even at a constant speed if you don't use power. So 7% is I think is a number that you can think of. So if range is very important to you, then go for the Pro. But then to the advantage of the GTX, it's the power. It's only 40 kilowatt more, doesn't sound a lot, but I did an acceleration test in the Pro. It was 6.5 seconds. In the GTX today, I had 5.37 seconds. That's over a second faster, just with 40 kilowatt more. And you feel it when you're accelerating. It's just way more fun, it's more power. I'm a tech by flies. And even on a highway, if you have to accelerate from 120 to 150 or something, you feel it, there's a different, it's more power, it feels just awesome. It's really good that Volkswagen is not famous for having sporty cars or a lot of power, but this is the sportiest and the fastest ID car that is on the market. When the Id.4 GTX Performance comes out, that's even faster, but that's pretty good, and I like it. So you can see it's all about what is important to you. Is it long distance? Then I think they're very similar. The Pro a bit better because of more range. If range is important to you, then it's the Pro. If power is important to you and traction, it's the GTX. And the GTX before, with lower range and the charging curve not so amazing, it was always a bit of a bummer. But now charging curve is very similar and the range is still good. So if you need power, get the GTX. If you want to follow me on Instagram, BatteryLife1, and if you want to support the channel, you can do that with Patreon. There's a link in the description below, or here on YouTube you can do that with channel membership. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take care. Bye.